Where's everything? Where did it all go? Where's the food? Where's the beef? It's a Wendy's commercial.
That wasn't a Wendy's commercial.
Where's the beef?
Yeah.
It was totally a Wendy's commercial.
Ah.
I bet you $1.
I feel like that was not Wendy's.
Where's the beef?
I feel like that was not Wendy's.
Was a Wendy's commercial.
I feel like I'm gonna Google that in a little bit.
You were a child. So let's talk about the supply chain shortage. Let's talk about how it is affecting our goods, it's affecting our food, it's affecting everything, the price of gas, inflation. How long is it gonna last? And what are you gonna do about it?
Let's talk about some tips and ideas to help get you through this hump. And let's hope that White Claw is not off the shelf, because then we'll be in real trouble.
That's a true story. So what is a supply chain shortage? Simply put, it means that there is a shortage of ability in the supply chain to get goods from point A to point B. And that's where we are right now. You guys have seen all the cargo ships that are sitting off the coast of Southern California, ports of Long Beach, ports of LA. I heard recently that 40% of all of the goods that come into America through shipping containers come in through those two ports. That's huge. It's completely backed up. Those ships are sitting out there. One of the largest ships can carry like 24,000 of these 20-foot long cargo containers, and that would take a line of truckers 90 miles long to unload one ship. These goods are sitting there. So then what's going on? You got the COVID restrictions that are preventing people from being able to work at a reasonable pace. You've got unions out there. I don't want to get in a fight with a longshoreman, so I'll keep my opinions on that simple, but...
You've got some new California legislation that's causing a lot of restrictions with truckers.
Right, and then on top of that, you've got old school rules with truckers. I mean, truckers get paid by the mile. So when somebody tells a trucker, hey, why don't you go to the Port of Long Beach and wait for 3 days to get loaded? He's like, you got another load for me? I'm not going there, because I get paid by the mile. I don't get paid to sit there for 3 days. People don't realize that. So this is all compiling together. I don't know what's being done to fix it, but whatever it is, it's not enough. You and I need to do what we can do to prepare ourselves to buffer this the best we can.
And one of the first things that you can do to help is to buy as locally as you can. It doesn't matter where you are in the country or in the world for that matter, but if you are somewhere where there's other people within a walking, driving, bus, train, whatever distance from you, guaranteed you will at some point run into a farm. You'd be surprised what some of your local farmers might be making that you need.
You right now that's watching this video have somewhere within driving distance to you access to local goods, and you're not aware of them, most of you, because life has just made it too easy to go down to the Walmart and get a chicken. And okay, look, that is what it is. That is changing. Part of the problem with the supply chain has grown to a point where this bubble has now popped because people have stopped using local farmers. I mean, Gilroy used to be the garlic capital of the world. You know where the garlic capital of the world is now? China. The local farmers are dying, and you need to support those local farmers. I'm not trying to preach, but I'm preaching, because keeping those local farmers operational is what's going to save you long term.
Exactly. It also will help that local farmer out during these times. So many people are not shopping at their local farms, and that's where we should be spending our money. Spend your money locally. Spend it with your neighbor. Even if it's the next town over or just outside of your city limits, go seek those people out. There's some great resources online that can help connect you to those individuals, so that you can start using that and really get a lot out of those connections beyond just getting your goods. You might end up making some friendships or learning something too.
You probably will.
You probably will, because farmers are pretty cool.
If you're buying goods that are coming in on cargo ships from China by the tens or hundreds of thousands of pieces, maybe reevaluate that. Maybe look and say, hey, is there an American-made razor that I can buy? When you buy that razor blade at the big box store that's made in China, you are supporting the problem.
And if you want to talk about lessening your carbon footprint, that is definitely one way to do it. We are people that like to be prepared, so we have always prepared slowly over time, and that is one of our tips to you today. If you're somebody who literally just goes to the grocery store every week and buys what you need, and you really don't keep much in your cupboards, this might be a good wake-up call for you to realize that maybe you should be prepping a little bit as you go. You want to prep slowly over time so that you don't get yourself in a situation where you're stuck, where now there's nothing on the shelf and you don't know what to do because you have nothing in your cupboards at home. If you've prepped over time and you've bought things either when they're on sale or when you've rotated your supply out in your cupboards or in your pantry like we do, you don't hit that level of, oh my gosh, the shelves are empty. That's a really, really great way to give yourself some peace of mind and to also stop our next tip, which is don't panic buy.
Right.
One of the issues is that people that are not used to being prepared and that don't prep start watching the news or going to the store and seeing some big gaps in the shelf and they start to freak out a little bit. And that's understandable because when you're not somebody who raises your own food or is prepared, it can be a little alarming. So one of the ways to keep that from happening, of course, is to prepare slowly. But for those of you that haven't, they go to the store and just start to see those gaps and freak out, please don't. One of the worst things you can do is then just do like the whole arm on the shelf thing and dump it all into your cart. You don't need 147 spaghetti sauces. All you're gonna get from that is heartburn. You wanna make sure that you have a good variety over time of different things.
Mine won't give you heartburn.
It won't. Keeping that in mind is you're then denying your neighbor who maybe isn't as prepared or maybe has a larger family than you do. Buy what you need. Don't go crazy and buy out the entire store and buy all the canned beans because you're afraid somebody else is gonna beat you to it. That's part of what increases this panic and the shelves being empty.
Right, and start doing it now, okay? Do every payday, just get a little bit, right? And add it, pick a spot in your house where you can store things. Look, we love, and you don't have to do this, but we love to raise our own food. We love to raise our own chickens, and guess what we have here? We have canned, jarred chicken that we raised. We have beef that we jarred. We have potatoes that we jarred. Spaghetti sauce that we made and jarred, pickled eggs from our chickens that we jarred, chicken stock, it goes on and on. You don't have to raise these animals yourself to get this food. You can buy food when it's on sale at the store and put it into jars and put it on your shelf for a fraction of the cost of buying those proteins when you need them later when they're in short supply. Your options are more limited when it's jarred meat, you know, it's shredded beef here, and this makes a good chicken salad, but it's not a chicken breast you can throw on a grill. Remember, we're talking about preparedness. We also keep whole chickens by the dozens in our freezer because we raise chickens. Okay, so you don't raise chickens, cool. When chickens are on sale, buy some chickens, put a whole chicken in your freezer, right? Know that you should have enough jars in your house to preserve everything that's in your freezer if the grid were to go down. We can teach you how to do that. You can watch other videos of ours. You get a pressure canner and you get some jars, and yeah, just have enough to jar everything that's in your freezer if the grid goes down.
Yes, get yourself an all-American pressure canner. They are excellent. There is a link in our Amazon store for ours. Grab yourself one. That is a really good investment, and it is something that when meat is on sale, like right now, meat is terribly expensive, which brings me to my next tip. Don't be afraid of the canned meats that you do find at the store. Now, tuna, people are pretty comfortable and people understand tuna, canned tuna. That's what most people are used to on their tuna fish salad sandwiches, right? But there's lots of other canned meats that you shouldn't be afraid of if that's all that's available. Now, maybe you're not the most savvy person in the kitchen. That's okay. You've got the internet. You've got neighbors. You've got grandma. You've got friends. Reach out. Google it. Look it up on Pinterest. Put in that weird canned salmon that you picked up. Put in whatever you found. Maybe you found some canned mackerel. You know, is it the best fish for most people? No.
It's good healthy oil and good protein.
It's good for you. It may, a lot of people may not find it as palatable, but everything is on Pinterest nowadays. You can look it up, but here's the other caveat to that tip here. It's like tip 3B, okay? Write it down.
Yes.
Write it down, because in the event,
print it.
Yeah, write it down. Put it in your cookbook, because the internet could go down, you might have a power shortage, you don't know. Like, just in the mindset of being a little bit more prepared, have it written down in hard copy if you're not savvy in the kitchen and comfortable with whooping something up, like randomly on the spur of the moment. Have it in hard copy so you know what to do with it, and that it's gonna, and practice. when things are not crazy, practice making something that maybe you wouldn't normally eat to see if, hey, that wasn't so bad. I could buy more of that next time I see it on the shelf.
Yes, you have to use your canned goods. This spaghetti sauce that I made this year would last a year, year and a half on the shelf, but it's not going to.
Oh, no.
Because we're going to use it, right? The same thing with this canned chicken or jarred chicken. We're going to use this up way before it expires. But guess, oh, I just popped it open.
Did you really? Don't.
Oh, maybe I didn't. Okay. Anyway, we have taught ourselves and just naturally become those people that use the food that we prepare and store. Here's some butternut squash right here.
I used that this week. One of my favorite things to do is when I'm not sure what I want to make for dinner or I haven't had a chance to go to the store, I wander in here and see what needs to be eaten. And this week it was like, oh, butternut squash. Oh, I know I have some frozen goat milk. I'm going to thaw that out this morning. Grabbed a can of cannellini beans. He had a giant zucchini from the garden. I made an amazing butternut squash soup from all of that, and I helped rotate our stock doing it.
We have, ooh, I even have tuna over here.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's another one. For those of you that fish or have the ability to trade for fish, can that fish.
You can can fish
so much longer. Another tip, which might sound pretty basic, is making your own bread. Now, bread is one of those things that can really kind of help fill you up. It can kind of stretch out a meal, and it's really cheap to make it yourself, and it tastes so much better.
Look, you should have flour, you should have sugar, you should have salt.
Now, if you don't have, and yeast, of course, don't forget yeast. If you don't have all of those things, that's okay. If you've got some flour or you can get your hands on some flour, you can make like a 2-ingredient bread with just a pinch of salt. You know, water, flour, a little bit of salt. I mean, you don't need a lot. You don't have to get crazy fancy with your bread. If you have all those things, great. If you've been prepping in advance and you keep those things on hand and you've got a supply of yeast, great. But during the beginning of the lockdowns, yeast was nowhere on the shelves. But I wasn't worried because I had my own sourdough starter, and I also had a supply of dry active yeast on hand. So I could make bread for us. I made bread like every week with my starter.
And guys, if you're on a budget and you're trying to figure out how to start preparing for an urgent situation, look, flour, sugar, yeast, and salt are cheap items. Get yourself some of these black bins. I have dozens of these black bins. Get yourself some of these black bins to keep the rodents and stuff out of them. Get a little bit of flour, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of yeast, a little bit of salt. Start yourself one little storage thing. You could make enough bread out of this to feed your family for a week.
Oh yeah,
at least,
more than
right?
a week. Yeah, and that's the great thing too, is that bread is one of those things. It's one of the first things that humans made that was kind of such a staple of our diet, and we kind of got away from that because carbs are bad. And granted, with a lot of the processed flours and processed sugars and, well, processed food in general, it isn't the best for you. But if you are worried about your health and not during a time of shortages and things where you have other things available, find some, ancient grain flour like an einkorn or something like that, and you can really make it an old school, healthy, traditional bread that people lived on for thousands of years.
But you've never made bread.
Practice.
And you didn't write it down.
Yep.
And the internet went down. Make some bread every couple of weeks for your family. You'll love it. It'll be fun. Have fun with it. Enjoy it. Enjoy the learning process. It doesn't matter how much research you've done. It doesn't matter how many supplies you have stored up and stockpiled. If you don't have skills, if you haven't practiced those skills and made them part of your life and who you are, you're gonna fail. Some of you guys disagree. You watched Doomsday Preppers and they had cans and cans and cans of 30-year food, but they had no skills, some of them. I'm not talking about all of them.
And the other thing to keep in mind too is, especially if you're somebody that's maybe living in the city or in a smaller home or an apartment where you don't have the space to prep on a massive scale because you don't have a bunker or the ability to dedicate 3 rooms of your house to canned goods.
Or a 12 by 12 prepper pantry.
It's not realistic for you to be able to do that. So think about what makes sense for you to keep it on hand and stock and store, keeping in mind that you're gonna have to rotate that stock, and teaching yourself some skills in the meantime, whether it's canning or something as simple as baking bread. Now, another thing that you can do, another side tip here to kind of stretch your meals a little bit, which kind of goes along with the bread making, which I feel like is such a staple right now, is look at your food portions. Think about it. Now, if you've got kids,
Talking to me, aren't you?
stop it. Now, if you've got kids, now growing kids are one thing. They need to be eating more frequently. But as adults, we're not growing anymore. When we continually feed our bodies, we're doing more harm than good. And there's a lot of science behind that. I've done other videos on it. But it's a great tip for preppers and people during shortages is to fast a little bit. It's going to stretch your meals out. You know, I generally eat 1 meal a day. And watching your portion control, yes, of course, is important. Whether you're an old schooler who, you know, eats 3 meals a day or not, looking at what you're portioning out, the size of it, the amount of it, how you're fueling your body is super important. You really need to base that on your activity level. And if you're not very active, you don't need as much fuel as you think you do.
Now, there's one thing we haven't talked about. Well, there's several things we haven't talked about, but there's one very important thing we haven't talked about. Elvis.
Okay.
We haven't talked about Elvis.
UFOs.
We haven't talked about UFOs. And we haven't talked about water.
Water.
You got to solve for water, people. You got to solve for water. Start thinking about your solve for water, right? We have 15,000 gallons of water in a pool out back. We have water purification devices. You may not have that. You may need to get one of those. Go Google it. In fact, I'll try to find a link online.
There's water in White Claw, right?
There is. They have these big bags that fit in a bathtub, and as soon as you hear there's a problem with the grid, look, the water system's still running for a while. So you put that thing in your bathtub and you hook it up, and you turn the tub on, and it fills this bag with water. You got yourself a couple 100 gallons right there. You can store cases of water and rotate them. Come up with a solution for water. Know where there's water close to you. Know where there's a pond or a lake or a river. Have some life straws or some other kind of device that you can filtrate the water. So you can go a long time without food. I could literally, if I needed to, with just the food that's right here, with these potatoes, this beef, this chicken, these eggs.
A month if you had to make it last.
Oh, that could easily be a month's worth of food.
Yeah.
You can't go more than a couple of days without water, depending on the conditions.
Right.
So you got to solve for that. I'm going to drink your White Claw.
Stop it. He's going in. He's going in, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. I need your man card now.
That's terrible.
No, it's not. It's pineapple-y good.
You drink that?
Yes.
Oh, tastes nothing like a beer. I need some whiskey.
Oh, Lord. There you have it. Those are our tips and our ideas to help get you through some of these supply chain shortages. Keep your chin up. If you haven't been prepping all along, now is the perfect time to start. This is the perfect kick in the pants you needed, maybe. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you get the notifications.
I'm going to go throw this away.
Oh, stop it. My precious.